everybody. Welcome to the Cupid's Coach podcast. I'm your host, Julie Ferman, inviting you, like I always do, to transform me to we by doing dating better than you used to. I have 9 stories I want to share with you today. 9 ones. 9 stories of people who met and found each other and committed to each other and are happy off in relationship now. Each story has a lesson. So see yourself in these stories and see if maybe the lesson or the moral might resonate with you. All right, 9 stories. First one, Jeffrey and Hannah. So cute how I met him. I was producing one of my events. It was a flirting party. And I have 2 hubs, some of you know this, Los Angeles and also Santa Fe, New Mexico. Because in 2016, my husband and I bought a home in Santa Fe, New Mexico, so we thought we'd share time between Los Angeles and Santa Fe. And everybody told me, oh, Julie, there aren't any good single people in all of New Mexico, and certainly not in Santa Fe, and there aren't any quality men. I kept hearing that. So after we moved to Santa Fe and I was spending a lot of time in Santa Fe, I was noticing I was meeting all kinds of interesting people, single men, single women, all ages. And I began to wonder if the word on the street was just a rumor or a big excuse. And I found over time, I was meeting more quality men in the tiny little town of Santa Fe, New Mexico, than I was in all of Los Angeles and all of Southern California. So I began to realize that part of the problem is the way people talk, okay? Like when they put the word out, oh, it's just the worst place ever to meet anybody. You can't date in San Diego. You can't date. There are no good quality men in all of Santa Monica. I hear it all the time. So I've been having fun disproving the rumor. So here I was at this flirting party. I had about 60 people there. Some of you know I curate my events. I don't just put the word out and charge people and then whoever shows up, shows up. No, I'll choose who I want at the party so that I'll have a nice mix of men and women, good gender balance. And it's always a function of who my current clients are at that moment in time. That's how I'll choose the demographic that I'm going to focus on. So I'm standing there at the door because it was a big brewery and the party was upstairs. And I didn't want everybody coming into my party because I was paying for the party and paying for the drinks and paying for the food and all of that. So this good-looking guy named Jeffrey comes walking in the door and I said, are you here for our flirting party? And he looks at me like deer in the headlights, like, no, no, just getting divorced, not interested in flirting, not interested. I'm just here to have a beer. And I said, good, you're in the right place. Here's your drink ticket. Go get yourself a drink and go upstairs and just make sure the ladies are having a good time. All right. You don't have to be ready to date. Just make sure they're having a good time. And I was really happy to have him at the party because he's tall, he's good looking, he's professional. He's just the kind of guy people hope to find at one of these events. So he has a great time. He stays till the very end. And he said, thank you for the invitation. I met some good people and I actually enjoyed myself. And I said, that's the idea. What I want all of you to be doing, if you're single and you're out there dating, I'm really passionate about this. I want you to use this space in between your relationships, between the last one you had and the next one you're going to have. There will be another one, you know. You'll have another relationship. I want that space to be filled with beautiful, wonderful, enriching experiences, great people that you get to meet. So Jeffrey had a chance to go and meet some interesting people. And then you know what? He felt a little bit better about the fact that there's a matchmaker here in town. So in my world, I don't let anybody just sit. So after the event, I reached out to him. I said, Jeffrey, I'm really glad that we met. And I'm glad you stayed around. When you're ready for dating, I want you to let me know. And meanwhile, while we're on the phone, can I ask you some fun questions so I can begin building your profile? And he said, yeah, I'm not ready for I said, I know you're not ready for dating. I know you're not, but you're going to call me when you are ready. He said, yeah, okay, I'll do that. So we get his profile done. Month goes by, I didn't hear from him. Another month goes by, I haven't heard from him. And I had a chance to do a consultation with a woman named Hannah that I just loved. Now, she looks kind of like Barbie, I gotta say. She's just positively beautiful. And it's not always easy to match the people who have all the goodies, right? A beautiful woman, a guy who's very wealthy. It's not easy to match these guys because their expectations are going to be very high. Why? Because they've been spoiled with attention, because he's the it guy, she's the it girl. And that was the type of connection that we had here. So I met with Hannah. I ran a search for Hannah. I thought about this guy, Jeffrey, but I wasn't ready to present him or anything yet because he hadn't told me he was ready. But I knew she would say yes to him. So I checked in with him. How you doing? How's dating? Are you dating? What's going on? Is the divorce final yet? He said, no, the divorce is just about final. I don't know if I'm really ready. Call me in 2 months. Just let me know when you got somebody great. I said, actually, that's why I called you. I do have somebody great. Her name is Hannah. I'm going to share her profile and take a look at it. See what she's all about. And if you're interested, intrigued, and would like to meet her, let me know because I'm pretty sure she'll say yes. He didn't call me back right away. Not the next day, not the day after. It was 3 or 4 days later. He sent me an email and he said, I would be really happy to meet this lady, Hannah, as long as she knows I'm not ready for dating yet. So maybe a friendship. They both had 2 children. He had 2 kids. She had 2 kids. They both had complicated divorce situations. And I connected the 2 of them and they became friends. And they started doing stuff together. He's into volleyball. She's into golf. They like hiking. They started doing things together. And then they started doing things together with the kids. And they were just friends. And this went on for a while. 6 months later, I thought I'd check in, Did it stick? Did it not stick? I didn't know. I checked in with him. I said, Jeffrey, just curious if you and Hannah had more than that first few dates. And he said, actually, yes, we are now officially dating. I said, how come you didn't tell the matchmaker? He said, I didn't want to give it a kanahora. I didn't want to give it any, I didn't want to jinx it. So do you know that today I got an email that they are engaged and they are getting married? It's just beautiful. So what's the moral of this story? I think the moral is be willing to be patient about readiness. You may meet a fantastic candidate now. Maybe they're not ready for a relationship. If all you're thinking about is close the deal, get married, find my person, you're going to miss a lot of opportunities. Make friends along the way, people who share passions, people who have similar values. Make friends with those people. Resist the temptation to label what this new connection is. It might be a romantic relationship. It might be a friendship. Maybe this person becomes your financial advisor. All of these things are possibilities. But don't label it and be willing to wait. Be willing to wait for readiness. That's the moral of that story. The next story, it's about a couple. Both of them were my matchmaking clients. And it was an introduction that on paper probably shouldn't have been made. He's from a Jewish background. She's a practicing Catholic. He likes going to temple. He likes having Friday night Shabbat dinners. Always did with his children. She goes to Mass every Sunday. She's on the membership committee at her church. Loves it. So that was one of the reasons why maybe it was a silly introduction to try to make. And the other reason was he wasn't divorced yet. He had been separated for years. We're talking like 8 years. And it was a complicated divorce to orchestrate. A lot of property, businesses would have to get liquidated or sold or split up or something. And neither one of them really wanted to do that. And she needed his health insurance. This was before we had the Affordable Care Act. And so that was the reason. and he was worried that it would throw her off the deep end. And, she was a little emotionally unstable. And they had an arrangement that they wouldn't get officially divorced until one or the other wanted to remarry, if that would ever happen. So I'm doing the initial consultation with this gentleman, Bernie. And I'm pulling up potential candidates, and we're looking at people together. And I pull up Ronnie's profile. And he says, "Tell me more about her." So I told him about her. I said, "Well, I don't know if it's going to be a match because she's a practicing Catholic and likes to go to Mass. Would love her guy to go with her to Mass if, he's a Christian or a Catholic." And he said, "I'm not sure I would do that." And I said, "Maybe she would go to temple with you on Friday night." He said, "I don't know if she would want to do that." So we almost didn't make it because of that. But he said, I'm very attracted to her. I love what she's about. They're both into philanthropic, serving the community, kids grown, all that good stuff. He said, "Why don't you check in with her and see if she would be open to meeting me, given A, I'm not her religion, and B, I'm not divorced yet." And she hesitated. She said, "You know what, Julie, it's not so much the religion thing. I could maybe get around that, but I am not interested in dating a man who's still on paper with another woman." Not interested in dating a man who's still on paper with another woman. And I said, "I hear you. I get it." I told her the situation. I said, "Why don't you just meet him and see how it feels being together? And if it's a one date wonder, no harm, no foul. You gave it a shot and it wasn't the right fit." She said, "All right, I'm going to give this a try because I like what he's all about and I trust you." She trusted her matchmaker. Well, the end of the story. These two, it was so cute. They dated for a year and a half before they had a chance to get into the bedroom. Now, I'm not recommending that this is the way you should do it, but she was not going to sleep with a man who was still technically married to another woman. She had her dignity. She had respect for herself. She knew what sex means to her. She knows what commitment means to her. So she said, I'm a very patient woman. I hope you're a patient man because we're not sleeping together while you're still married to someone else." And so they had this wonderful, wonderful courtship. He's this big, tall guy. She's this tiny little woman. And at the end of every day, she'd come over to his house and she'd crawl into his lap and they would talk about their day. And they built this intimacy that was so special. And she would say to me, "I have never been loved this way before. He listens to me. He's interested in me. He cares about me. He wants to do things for me." He would say to me, "I can't believe this woman is so dear and so kind and so receptive. And she cooks and she teaches me how to use my iPhone and she does all these things for me." And they started to just sort of merge their lives together. Well, they knew within the first 6 months that they really, really did want to be together. Took them another year to get the divorce final. And the day the divorce was final, they had not been in the bedroom yet, north of the border. That was it. He said, "Ronnie, get yourself a pretty dress. We're going down to the courthouse and we're going to get married. We'll have the party later. I'm not going to have another night without you next to me." And that's what they did. And they've been happy, happy, happy ever since. How did they handle the religious thing? No big deal. Sometimes he goes to Mass with her. Sometimes she goes to temple with him. They celebrate Christmas. They celebrate Hanukkah. It's not a problem. It's not an issue. And you know what else? They don't vote the same either. They don't vote the same. He's conservative. She's liberal. They agree on some policy issues. Others they don't. We had a fun conversation about that about a year ago about politics. And I love that. When we go into that ballot box, it's between us and whoever we answer to. All right. We don't have to be in alignment on politics or religion in order for love to blossom. That's the moral of that one. Okay, here's another fun one. I had my hair done for years by this wonderful woman in Westlake Village. Her name is Lori. She had 4 kids. She was widowed. Cancer took him early, quick, esophageal, boom. Within 6 months, he was gone. Kids ranged in age between 4 and 12. Here's this lady who's a hairstylist, making decent money, but she had to take care of everything. Didn't have life insurance. Nobody expects that their husband's going to get sick and die. So I'm sitting in her chair and she says, is there anybody that you could introduce me to who would take on me and my 4 children? I said, I don't know why not. I don't know why not. Now, you guys know, if you've been paying attention here, I don't wait for Lori, my hairstylist, to become my client in order to make an introduction happen. I don't want to wait for both people to pay me a bunch of money. I don't want to wait for that. So this gentleman comes in, he does this consultation with me. He's never been married. He's 52. She's about 47. He thinks he's probably supposed to get married and have kids, but he kind of forgot. He never did it. And so he's still fishing in that pool, right? He's still fishing in the pool of women who are young enough to have kids. So he's fishing in the 30s, maybe early 40s, but he really wants 30s because he doesn't want to rush into the whole process of having kids. Well, those girls are turning him down. They are. They just are. So I said to him, you really ought to be open to both groups. Of course, the women who want to get married and make babies. Don't forget the women who have frozen their eggs. They could be 45, they could be 47, but they have eggs on ice and they can still make babies. So he was open to all of those scenarios. And he was also open to the possibility of dating somebody who has children. So I always go to the guy first. And I said, what do you think of Lori? And he said, wow, I like everything about her. She could even cut my hair. We laughed. And he was willing to meet her and see if there was a connection and worry about the kid thing later. Worry about, gosh, how would it be partnering with somebody who had 4 children? He wasn't thinking about partner yet. We were just talking about a first date. See how it feels being together. And that's what they did. And they have something in common. It's really cute. They both love cooking and they love barbecuing. That's how they bonded, was over barbecue recipes. One time it would be in his backyard, and one time it would be in her backyard, and she'd have the kids there, and there was a pool, and they just had fun. And the family, it started becoming a family even before it became a romance. So you know I'm going to tell you, these two have been married for 15 years. And they have a beautiful life together. She's retired now. They moved the kids to Colorado. They're all together. It's just beautiful. So what's the moral of that story? There are women who come to me and say, nobody who's not been married yet. Well, I want to know why that's any better. A guy who's not been married yet, why is that any worse than a guy who's been divorced 3 times and has all the baggage and all the drama that goes with that, right? If everybody's only picking the same group of people because, okay, he's been married before, he's got a certain level of education, he's making a certain amount, those guys get spoiled rotten. So look for your key criteria. And if you see it, that you have passions, values in common, of course, try the hat on, give it a shot. All right, fun little story. I'm a specialist in what we call the art of social magnetism. I love helping people work their magic out there in the world. I don't care where you meet your partners, your candidates, the people you go on dates with. I don't care if you meet them at the car wash. I don't care if you meet them at the dog park. I don't care if you pick up a nice woman at the bookstore. I don't care how you meet, only that you do. So this is a cute little story about when I was a single girl. I was living in Kansas City and I was a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Wherever I've been, I've always joined the Chamber of Commerce because it's just a quick way to meet people, get business going, whatever. So this guy, I'm about 25, and this guy comes up to me and he's probably in his mid 50s, right? And he's, flirting with me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm friendly to everybody. And he said, we should go out and have a drink sometime. And I don't know. I just said, I'm I'm kind of looking to get married and have kids. I'm guessing maybe you did that already. Didn't you already do that? He said, well, yeah, I have grown kids. And I said, yeah. I said, maybe you should introduce me to your son. I was joking. And he said, maybe I should, because I have a son who's about your age and could be interesting. And I said, well, that's okay. I'll meet your son. I met his son. His son and I became buddies, but it wasn't a romance. He was just kind of a dweeby guy. I don't know. It just wasn't any kind of chemistry there. But we shared some passions. We both loved dogs. I couldn't have a dog. I was working in the hotel industry 70 hours a week. Would have been horrible to have a dog. He was a salesperson on the road a lot and couldn't have a dog. So he would borrow his neighbor's dog and take the dog out on missions, flirting missions on Saturday and Sundays. He would do it every weekend. And he had his little circuit. He would go to the coffee shops and he had art galleries and he had live music places he would go. And sometimes he would go to the dog park and either play with the neighbor's dog or play with other people's dogs. And I loved that too. So he and I would go to these places and have fun. And he was always trying to kind of make it a romance. And I just wasn't feeling it. I just wasn't feeling it. He kept trying and I was nice. I'm like, I don't think so. We're just meant to be buddies. So eventually he gave up. He said, you're never going to go for me, are you? I said, probably not in that way. He said, damn it. Well, maybe you should meet my cousin then. I'm like, oh, I'm happy to meet your cousin. So it was the father and then the son and then the cousin. And the cousin was my favorite guy of all the guys that I dated in Kansas City. So what's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is don't turn down dates with people. Massage your current opportunities. Look for opportunities. This guy was dweeby, but we both loved art galleries. So we would go to art galleries. We both loved dogs. So we would walk the dog. We'd go to the dog park. We became friends. He kept knocking on my door. I wasn't opening it for romance, but sooner or later, he said, you should meet my cousin. There was a lady who was the grandmother of a guy that I dated in college. And some of you have heard me talk about her. Her name was Anne Bray, and she was a Southern belle from Atlanta. And I think I dated the guy an extra couple months because she was so special. And she and I had all these wonderful dates on Sundays. I'd go over to her place and we would just talk and have quiches. And oh my gosh, loved her. And as we were breaking up and I was moving on and college was over and, she said, I have some advice for you, Julie. You keep this in your mind as you're doing your dating. I said, okay, all right. What's the advice? She said, never turn down a date with anybody. You never know who his friends might be. Keep that in the back of your mind. Don't turn down dates with people. Say yes. It's like when you go to a dance, you're at some kind of a mixer and there's somebody asking you to dance. Please say yes. Even if he looks like the dweeby guy, because you know what's going to happen? You say yes to the dweeby guy and you're dancing and you're nice to him. The other guys are paying attention and they're thinking, well, gosh, if she said yes to that guy, she's going to say yes to me, right? Practice saying yes. Practice being nice. Another thing that happened, I used to do personal ads. That's all we had back then. And I remember going on a date with a guy who had sent me a picture, nice looking guy in the picture, nice little letter. I said yes to the date. We met at my favorite little health food store, had a nice little cafe there. I was eating vegetarian food every day then. And he walks in, he didn't look anything like the photo that he sent me. As a matter of fact, I knew that he was not the person in the photo that he sent me. I had two choices. I'm going to be rude and obnoxious and tell him he's the evil, horrible person and storm out of the restaurant, or I'm going to roll with the punches. I could tell that he was challenged. He had big, what do you call them? If you can't hear, he had earpieces in because he had hearing problems, hearing aids. Yeah. And he had kind of a slow labored way of speaking. and he was very timid, and I could tell he was really nervous. And I just shifted into, let's be kind. Let's be nice to this person. Let's leave this person with his dignity no matter what. And I decided to be nice. I decided to make it my mission to make him feel like it was worth his time to come to that date. And I would find a way to make sure that it was worth my time as well. It was kind of my first dating coaching opportunity. Didn't even know that years later I would become a dating coach, but I remember just being kind. And at one point I said to him, okay, so how come it is that you don't look anything like the photo that you sent me? And he said, if I had sent you a photo of this guy, would you have come? It was so sad. And I realized, no, I probably wouldn't have. And I said, so who's the photo of? And he said, oh, it's my next door neighbor. He was out there mowing his lawn one day, and I just took a picture of him, and I used that picture. And the funny thing is, I always carried with me my little camera because I love to take pictures. So this was the first time I've done this, and I've done it many, many, many times. And I encourage you to do the same. If you're going out on a date with somebody, especially if you know he's not your person, she's not your person, and the photo that they're using is not a good one, it doesn't represent them well, it's an old photo, doesn't look like them, it's not flattering, it's the guy in the bathroom with the nasty ass shower curtain or whatever, help them get a new photo. And that's exactly what I did. I said, you know what? You need a good photo of you. I happen to have my camera. Let me take a picture. So we're sitting there right in the booth of this health food restaurant. I took some pictures. And then because I broke the ice in doing that, I knew that I kind of needed better pictures. So after we paid the bill and we were getting ready to leave, I said, let me take some of you on the street, because you need some other photos too. And I took a whole bunch of photos. And I ran to the place where you go to get your film done. And I had all the pictures developed. And he gave me his address, and I sent him the pictures that he could use. And I found the ones that I liked the best, and I had 3 of each one made, and I gave it to him. And my girlfriends and I would include him in our invitations when we had parties. We sort of made him our little project. And our mission was to get him more comfortable doing dating and going to mixers. And it was really beautiful because he said to us that it was the first time he ever felt comfortable being with women. He had never done it before. He had only been with his family and maybe some guys from his school. He had a special school that he went to. And this was the first time that he was in mainstream America, interfacing with men and women his own age. Beautiful. In what ways might you be able to do that for someone who could use a break? You be the one to give them a break. All right, I have one more story I'm going to share with you, and then the others I'm going to share next week. This was my most recent wedding, and I got to officiate. I did for the first time. It was just beautiful. And here's how it happened. I produced these events, and this one that I was having was one of my conversational quickies dinner parties. And there were 16 people in a U-shaped table. Sometimes it's round tables and we do rotation so everybody gets to meet everybody. But this one, 16 people all in a U-shape, and you pull a question, everybody answers that question quickly. Conversational quickies. It's not meant to be a diatribe, it's meant to be quick. And we had this wonderful dinner, and it was all part of a retreat that we were doing. And she noticed him. And afterwards she said, what about that guy? And I said, what about that guy? Because he had done a consultation with me. She was one of the people that I put up on the screen that we talked about, and I didn't get a strong signal from him that he was attracted to her. So I didn't think of the match as a possibility until she said, what about him? And I thought, well, let's give it a shot, right? I always go to the guy first. So I sent him her profile. I said, what do you think? He said, wow, we have a lot in common. She's fascinating. Love her pictures. I'd like to meet her. Like, she was at the event the other night, just like, I don't remember her. I don't remember her. Why? Because he was looking at the girl who looked like Barbie. I know why he was looking at that girl. So they got together on a first date. That's all it took, the first date. He's 11 years older than she is. She was not looking for an older man. She wasn't. She was looking for somebody about in her demographic. She's 67. He's 78. She wasn't looking for a 78-year-old man. Neither one of them was looking for marriage. Neither one of them. It's very interesting, the marriage question. If I haven't shared this with you, I'll go ahead and share it. I get to watch a lot of numbers in the statistics of being a matchmaker with my own company for 22 years. So women are 3 times as likely to check the I want to get married box. Guys, much more likely to check the maybe box. Well, it depends on who I meet. Maybe if I met the right person, but they're not on a mission to get married. It's more likely that we girls will be looking for marriage. Cultural status, we feel more secure. We keep hearing from people, when are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? So there's pressure, especially for women, to get married. Neither one of them wanted to be married, but they loved each other. And I was so surprised. We had them over for dinner. They brought a bottle of Dom Perignon. I'm like, maybe there's a make an announcement. They're going to make an announcement. And sure enough, they announced that they're getting married, and they asked me if I would officiate, which was so beautiful. I'd never done it before, but I went online, got myself one of them certificates. Now I'm an official officiant for a wedding. I can marry you if you want to be married. And the thing that was so amazing is I was interviewing each of them before the wedding. And the thing that was so special is I asked him, I said, why marriage? You're 78 years old. Why marriage now? He cried through the whole interview, by the way. And he got real quiet and he said, marriage is the strongest expression of love that I can offer to this woman. And I don't want to live a life without her in it. So amazing. It was a beautiful, beautiful wedding. So what's the moral of that story? Be open to surprises, folks. Be open to surprises and see how you feel when you are with someone. Don't pay attention to those little boxes. Well, he's 2 years older than my age target. He's 7 years older than my age target. I'm hoping to meet younger and she's the same age as I am. Don't pay attention to that stuff. Pay attention to how you feel and if you are in alignment on values, your purpose for dating. Like in the first story, neither one of them was ready to be dating, but they were open to having a friendship. They were open to a different interpretation for why would we meet up? Well, maybe our kids would get along. We'd have barbecues together, right? It's like, be open to the surprises and flexible where you have been being rigid and see what happens. Thank you so much for being here with me. Take these stories and use them as an opportunity to expand your horizons. The way you've been doing dating hasn't yet provided the intended result. That's why you're listening to this podcast. That's why people are doing my boot camp. Oh, something I want to share with you about boot camp. My goodness gracious. More than half of the people who have been in my first 7 boot camp classes are in a relationship. And when they started boot camp, they were not. It's really powerful what we're learning to do in boot camp. It's about maximizing every opportunity that we have out there, not just relying on the matchmaker, not just relying on the online dating sites to find your next person. We're doing it in all kinds of creative ways. So hang out with me, hang with me. If you haven't yet gotten registered with me so I can find you when I'm searching, gotta do it, julieferman.com. If you haven't yet had a phone call with me, it's a free 30-minute phone call. If you listen to my podcast, you have my invitation to shoot me an email and get on my calendar. I want to know you. Julie@julieferman.com. Then you want to do your consultation with me, which is that $295 adventure. which is 1 hour of your time, 2 hours of my time. And I'm going to run a search for you. We're going to look at real live people together, and I get to watch your face and see if you're batshit crazy or if you got your head screwed on straight. And then you might do my boot camp. And all of these things apply toward higher level services. You might end up becoming my matchmaking client, but I got to really feel that it's a good investment for you. And I'm going to advise you to do all this great stuff first. So hang with me and we'll figure it out together. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week. You go out there and transform me to we for yourself.